Before 4 a.m., a field in Devon, a Royal Navy helicopter down. A witness heard it coming and said it sounded wrong before it even cleared his rooftop. The number of crew on board hasn't been confirmed. Their condition hasn't been confirmed. Right now, almost nothing has been confirmed, and that silence is the story. A Royal Navy helicopter crashed into a field in Devon during the early hours of June 3rd, triggering a major emergency response and an official military investigation. According to Devon and Cornwall Police and the Royal Navy, the aircraft went down near Sawton Down, close to Okehampton, shortly before 4 a.m. local time.
Several road closures are in place around the A386 and A30 Sawton Cross Slip and Services area. The incident is ongoing, and we will share more updates as we have them.
Authorities have not yet confirmed the number of personnel on board or their condition. The crash occurred in an area located between the Royal Navy's major air stations at Yeovilton in Somerset and Culdrose in Cornwall, and near the Okehampton military training area, which has previously been used for Merlin helicopter operations. Emergency crews remain at the scene, while police have imposed road closures around the A386 and the A30 Sawton Cross area. The Royal Navy has so far released only a brief statement as investigators begin examining the incident.
An incident occurred involving a Royal Navy helicopter just before 0400 on Wednesday, June 3rd, near Sawton in Devon. An investigation is underway, and it would be inappropriate to comment further at this time.
Authorities have not confirmed the helicopter type, though British media reports suggest it is believed to be a Merlin helicopter, an aircraft widely used by the Royal Navy for transport, anti-submarine warfare, and military support missions. Local officials have urged the public to avoid the area while emergency operations continue. Speaking to a BBC reporter on the ground, a local witness described signs of possible trouble moments before the aircraft came down.
A witness I spoke to described it as sounding wrong as it flew over his house, and it almost took the roof off his house. He said it sounded like it was clearly in trouble, and it sounded like it was mechanically failing.
Plymouth Moorview MP Fred Thomas said he was monitoring developments, but stressed that further comment should wait until the Ministry of Defence releases additional information. Thomas wrote on X,
I am aware of reports of a Royal Navy helicopter incident. I understand several road closures are in place around the A386 and A30 Sawton Cross Slip, whilst emergency services respond. It would not be appropriate to comment further at this stage until the MOD releases a statement, but I am monitoring the situation and will update back here.
The cause of the crash remains unknown, and investigators are expected to examine flight data, maintenance records, and witness testimony as part of the Royal Navy's inquiry. Russian state rhetoric has taken a sharply escalatory turn, with one of Vladimir Putin's most prominent propagandists openly calling for direct attacks on the United Kingdom, raising fresh concerns about how far Moscow's messaging is willing to go. According to a report by the Daily Mirror, a leading Kremlin-aligned television host issued a stark warning, suggesting that Britain could be targeted and even sunk amid rising tensions with the West. The comments come at a time when relations between Moscow and NATO countries remain deeply strained, particularly over continued Western support for Ukraine. In the broadcast, Vladimir Solovyov, Putin's most vocal ally, delivered a chilling message, invoking the possibility of military retaliation against the UK.
Russia must take responsibility for combating piracy, and so will be forced to sink British Royal Navy ships involved in piracy and the hijacking of commercial vessels.
Sarcastically, Solovyov alluded to the Royal Navy's shrunken presence in the world's seaways, referring to a destroyer now patrolling off Cyprus and one of 2 aircraft carriers.
I wonder, after we sink the first 2 British ships, how many will they have left? First the Dragon, then the Prince of Wales, and that's it. That's the point. Not many, right? So Britain doesn't rule the seas anymore. Relax, your time is up.
This is not the first time Russian state media has used such rhetoric. Since the start of the war in Ukraine, pro-Kremlin voices have frequently escalated their language, including references to nuclear capabilities and threats against European capitals. The Kremlin has repeatedly claimed that the West is seeking to weaken or even dismantle Russia. Vladimir Putin himself has previously stated that Western powers aim to weaken, divide, and destroy the country. The UK, one of Ukraine's strongest backers, has been a frequent target of Russian criticism. British military aid, intelligence support, and diplomatic pressure on Moscow have made it a focal point in Russian narratives about Western involvement. Despite the rhetoric, Western governments have sought to avoid direct military confrontation with Russia, emphasizing that their support for Ukraine is defensive in nature. However, the language emerging from Russian media underscores the fragile and volatile nature of the current geopolitical moment. As the war continues, the gap between rhetoric and reality remains a critical concern. But with threats becoming more explicit and more frequent, the risk of miscalculation is something neither side can afford to ignore. Britain's naval strength has come under renewed scrutiny amid claims that the Royal Navy is struggling to meet operational demands at a critical moment. Questions are now being raised about the country's ability to lead key NATO missions, following a series of developments that have exposed gaps in frontline readiness. The controversy centres on the deployment of HMS Dragon, which had originally been scheduled to lead a NATO mission in the North Atlantic. However, after an Iranian drone strike hit RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus on March 1st, the Type 45 destroyer was redirected to the eastern Mediterranean. In its place, the German frigate FGS Sachsen will now take command of NATO's Standing Maritime Group 1. The move has prompted criticism from within the UK, with Conservative MP Ben Obice-Jekti told the Portsmouth News that
the Royal Navy had officially run out of ships. Britannia most certainly doesn't rule the waves.
The situation has been further complicated by remarks from Defence Secretary John Healey, who stated during an interview that Britain operates 17 frigates and destroyers. In reality, the figure stands at 13, including 6 Type 45 destroyers, of which only 1 is currently deployed at sea. Although a senior Royal Navy officer is expected to retain command of the NATO task group, operations will now be conducted from the German flagship. The German embassy confirmed the shift on X, describing it as part of an increased military presence in the North Atlantic.
Germany is increasing its military presence in the North Atlantic under NATO. As the UK deploys HMS Dragon to the eastern Mediterranean, German frigate Sachsen will take over from HMS Dragon as NATO Maritime Task Group flagship, an expression of the close partnership.
The Ministry of Defence has defended the arrangement, insisting that the UK's commitment to NATO remains unchanged. A spokesperson said it is not unusual for such groups to be commanded from an Allied warship while still being led by British personnel. Nonetheless, the inability to provide an alternative vessel has intensified concerns about the Royal Navy's stretched resources. HMS Dragon itself required urgent preparation before deployment, having been in dry dock and undergoing maintenance when the drone strike occurred. The vessel reportedly lacked missiles and was surrounded by scaffolding at the time it was ordered into action. Families gathered in Portsmouth as the warship eventually set sail on March 10th. However, it took a week for the vessel to reach operational readiness, followed by several days to exit British waters and transit through Gibraltar and the Mediterranean before arriving in Cyprus. The delay has drawn criticism, particularly after the Ministry of Defence had previously indicated that the ship was operational, a status suggesting it could be deployed within 72 hours. In reality, HMS Dragon sailed a week after being ordered to do so, and 10 days after the initial strike on RAF Akrotiri. At the time, reports indicated that 5 of the Royal Navy's 6 Type 45 destroyers were undergoing repairs while the Cypriot base came under attack. The sluggish response has fueled debate over Britain's preparedness to respond swiftly to emerging threats. Former Royal Navy Commander Rear Admiral Parry told The Sun that the situation was a farce, criticising the government for failing to anticipate rising tensions in the region. He also questioned the strategic planning behind the UK's current defence posture. Despite these concerns, HMS Dragon, one of the most advanced warships in the Royal Navy, is now entering the Middle East theatre. Yet the episode has cast a spotlight on the broader challenges facing Britain's naval capabilities.